Hello, everyone. Welcome to, I believe, the 11th episode. I honestly didn't double check. I think it's the 11th episode. We'll find out after this. But, well, you'll know. I won't. But I think it's the 11th episode of the podcast. Thank you all for joining me today. As with every episode, the gameplay on the screen is recorded by me. It is my own gameplay. But if you didn't know already, it is not required to understand anything that I'm talking about on the podcast. It's just there for something to keep your eyes occupied if you want to watch. But if you want to just listen in the background, you won't have to understand. You won't have to watch what's happening to understand what I'm talking about. And the age rating on these is around like a moderate PG-13. I don't try too hard to censor myself, but I'm not out here going crazy or anything. Today's topics of discussion are going to be my thoughts on Pikmin 1 and 2 on the Switch, like how they run, how my experiences with them have been so far, all that kind of stuff. Slight review, but like I haven't beaten either of them yet, and I might not for a while, but obviously I've played both of them extensively, so I already know how the game is. I just am more analyzing the differences between them and what I'm used to. Topic B is going to be me talking about Earth, the board game, because I actually it just came in the mail 2 days ago, and I got to try out the solo. I played it twice today. I played the solo game twice, because it usually takes the first one where I'm constantly referencing the rules, and then that second play is where I can really analyze how I feel about a game. And beyond, obviously, as well. Obviously, I would like to play it a few more times to really gauge how much I like it, and play it with other people, because sometimes the solo version is kind of just a dumbed-down version of the multiplayer game. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but the special segment today is going to be me talking about the Vikings and their 0-3 start to the season. That, again, kind of dates the videos, but you're aware that I record these pretty far in advance. Like, I think I'm about, well, episode 4 went up yesterday. So, episode 4, which aired on the 23rd of September, went up yesterday. So, I'm guessing it'll probably be about maybe 2.5 months before you get this episode, so it'll be interesting to see where the Vikings are at then. But yeah, I'm going to talk about what it's been like watching them. And then the last topic of discussion today is going to be my favorite experiences playing local multiplayer. But first we start with the current event, as always. Continuing off kind of the topic of last time of teaching, because that's pretty much all I really do during the day. I kind of teach and then get home and plop down and watch YouTube for the rest of the day. But it's been getting easier to relax when I come home. Like, I have a hard time like taking my mind off of work a lot of the times, whereas like one philosophy that was drilled into me from like the person who mentored me during my student teaching time was that when you go home, you're home, and it's time to put away the schoolwork. Like, if you have stuff to get done, stay a little later and get it done at the school, and make sure that when you go home, you don't take any work with you, you don't open anything relating to the job while you're at home. So, like, I don't think anyone would get on me for it, because people will probably start to realize this, but I don't check my email or work on updating grades or work on much in the way of I like to go through what I'm going to do the next day, kind of the night before. Like, I'll be like, okay, these are the things I'm going to rehearse, these are the spots I'm going to focus on with, and go through each group. But otherwise, I don't do a lot of extensive outside work while I'm at home, especially since right now I have a lot of prep at the school. I don't have, like, I've started getting into the routine of having kids come in with lessons, but it's still been a lot of open hours because a lot of kids are forgetting or aren't able to leave because they're still doing like some of the beginning of the school year type stuff with their classroom teachers, and they won't let them come down. But the point being, I have a lot of time when I'm at the school to get stuff done, so I shouldn't have to bring stuff home to work on outside of that. And that's the best way to avoid burnout, from what I hear, is that you get home and you're able to just relax and take your mind off of school for the entire time that you're home, which is what I do. I pretty much get home and I shut my brain off for a bit. I play video games, I watch YouTube, I will probably start playing board games more as well, because the issue has been, like, I get home and I'm exhausted, but now my schedule's started to regulate and even out a lot more, so I actually have a bit more energy when I get home to actually do stuff, rather than just laying in bed and eating snacks. But yeah, this last week was a busy one. It was homecoming week for us at the school, which meant a lot of preparation on the high school side of things for pep band. There was 2 pep bands last week, plus a pep fest that occurred during the school day. We got a lot of compliments on that, which I'm happy about. It always feels weird that I'm the person who gets complimented. Like, I'm like, alright, you told me. Now, when you have those kids in class, you make sure you tell them how good they did, because I'm just the person up there waving my arms. Sure, I provide the instruction, but there's a definite skill cap in the group that, like, I can't exceed. So it's like 30% me, 70% them. Like, they're the ones providing the music. I'm the one there helping them get to that point. But especially at the high school level. I would say, like, not to expose how it's done or anything, but band in reality, like middle school, like 5th to 8th grade is where you do most of your teaching. Like, hardcore, like, teaching rhythms, teaching note names, teaching how you play the instrument mechanically. That is for 5th to 8th grade. And then high school, you slip in some, like, more advanced theory when you're talking about pieces. But in reality, at the high school level, they're there because they want to rehearse and play music. They aren't there necessarily to learn about music, if that makes sense. Like, they aren't gonna be... It's almost to agree, like, the saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like, obviously high schoolers aren't, like, elderly by any means, but it's like they're kind of beyond the age where they're completely open to learning new things. Like, obviously you can teach them stuff, but it's not going to be nearly as vigorous or as, like, in-depth, like, lessons that you teach middle school. High school is more like you rehearse them rather than you fully are educating them, if that makes sense. Like, it sounds like I'm undermining what I do, if that's the right word, I don't know. But, like, there's a lot more teaching through doing in high school than there is in 5th to 8th grade. In 5th to 8th grade, it's a lot more you tell them how to do it and you explain it a lot more in depth, whereas high school, you get them playing and playing as much as possible during the hour, because that's how they're going to learn, is through practice with the full group. But yeah, I kind of forgot how I even got to this point. But yeah, this last week has been homecoming. It's been super fun, super exhausting. Like, I have been going to sleep very early, like 9:30, 10 o'clock is my bedtime that I try to stick to. And then I get up at 5:30 every morning. Well, I set my alarm for 5:30. I try to get out of bed by 6:15. Like, I know that sounds like I'm snoozing my alarm a lot, but like I try to be at the high school by 7:30 so that I can sit there, check my email, make sure I have that all lined up, make sure I get everything ready that I need to for my first class of the day. Once I get that done, I prepare for the next few classes, and yeah, just kind of have a lot more time to get acclimated and stuff. And I have kids sign up for lessons as well. That reminds me, I forgot to post a sheet for this week for lesson sign up, so I guess I won't have anyone on Monday. Oops, I should probably get that done. But that'll be a before school thing tomorrow. It was homecoming, so I kind of totally forgot that I had to do that. Oops, I guess I'll do that tomorrow. But I'm not too concerned about it. The way lessons have kind of been working is the kids that I know are, like, I've kind of noticed, like, trends already with the kids. Like, the kids who are, like, on top of their stuff have already gotten their lessons done. And then I already know it's going to be mass panic at the end of the quarter, because I'm only requiring one lesson per junior high school kid. So I think there's actually enough time for them to do 2, but it would be, like, really tight. So I'm only requiring 1. However, so many people have been missing their opportunity. I think I have about 10 that have gotten their lessons taken care of out of 80-ish. Actually, 90. It's actually closer to 100. I think it is 100. 100 between junior high and high school. So about 10 total have gotten in for theirs, which isn't bad because it's only been 2 weeks, but I have the feeling that they're going to start putting it off until, like, November, and then they're going to be like, oh, why is there no spots left? What happened? And I'm like, I told you got to sign up early. When you see there's a slot, you better get it, because then you don't have to worry about getting one later. But I already know how it's going to go, but yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting, to say the least. But we also had a parade to prepare for in high school. I had them do a lot more vigorous training, I guess you would say, for a parade, a lot more rigorous practicing, because before they had only just marched the school song, which, sure, it's traditional, it's a very traditional thing to do, but I prefer having something a little more unique to make every year feel special, so I got them their own unique sort of parade song, you'd call it, that they prepared just for this year, that they got to show off, and I think they put on a performance that they all should be proud of. Like, if anyone has, like, any regrets about the performance, it's probably a very nitpicky, personal thing, rather than, like, as a whole, they performed very, very well. But yeah, it went really well. It was our first major performance of the year, obviously. We've had a couple pep bands since then, but, like, pep bands, like, I was really nervous for the first one because I'd never led one, like, logistically. Like, I'm obviously just nervous that I'm gonna mess something up. It's way easier than I put the stress on myself for. So it's like, obviously I know when I'm going to play the school song, and if I'm a little late, no one's going to really get livid about it because they understand I'm new. And Star Spangled Banner, they announce that we're about to play it. So, not a big deal. I will be able to know when that's happening. But I was super nervous for the first one, and then it's been smooth sailing since then. Yeah, it literally does get better every day. There's only a couple issues that I have that I won't go in depth on here because I know some of the kids watch, so I'd rather not expose them in public on YouTube, but I do have a few, like, issues that I definitely need to address in a few of the younger grades, but everything really has been very smooth, and I have no concerns whatsoever. Junior high especially has been progressing really well. I'm actually a little nervous about the rate that they're progressing. I ordered them a new piece because I think they're going like at a really fast rate and they're picking up on stuff really well. So I don't want them to get bored with the pieces that they've been working on. So yeah, I ordered them an additional piece. They've been working on 2. I think 3 is probably the exact number that we should be shooting for every concert. But yeah, that's been going super well, and I'm really looking forward to the first concert. Obviously, it's going to be really nerve-wracking for me because it's like first concert as a full-blown director, but honestly, as pressure-filled as it seems, to me, it really is not going to matter to a lot of other people. Like, it's like, I put a lot of stock into it, but I don't really, it's mostly going to be parents there, and they aren't going to, like, they aren't going to know enough, probably, to criticize me for, like, making a mistake in my conducting, or maybe forgetting to, like, bow, or something like something as trivial as that. No one's going to really be nitpicky with me on that, I don't think. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Everything's been going well, teaching-wise, and like I said, I've really been settling into my regular routine, which is kind of, I go out and teach all day. I come home around 4:30, 5 o'clock, depending on how late I have to stay at the school, and I get home. Usually, I haven't, for the most part, I've been able to fit lunch in my schedule now, but sometimes I don't. So when I don't eat lunch, I eat a really early dinner, like pretty much right when I get home, and then have a snack later. But generally I get home, I kind of relax for a bit and I kind of process everything that happened that day and think about what I want to do the next day during that time. And then I just kind of chill, go on YouTube, sit around. I've been playing a lot of Tales of Vesperia again. I'm really into it, and it's weird because I can't really put my finger on why I like it so much, because I'm not really that invested in the story. I do really like the characters, but the story isn't anything like as magnificent as Xenoblade, but I'm like really invested in it, and it's been really hard to put down lately, so. And the combat is really fun, I will say. It's like fighting game style combat in an RPG, which is super cool and unique. I'd never seen anything like that before. But yeah, I suppose that's pretty much it for current events, because I really don't do that much spectacular outside of teaching. I mean, I guess every Saturday I've made it my tradition that Saturday is going to be the day that I cook like a more extravagant dish myself, so I guess I could talk about what I cooked this week. This week I cooked it was a Southwest, like, breakfast stir-fry with sweet potatoes, green peppers, and eggs, obviously. And it was good, but it wasn't that good. The issue was the recipe called for a small green pepper and a small sweet potato. So I found the smallest ones that I could at the grocery store, but I think they were still too big because the content of the Southwest skillet outweighed the egg. Like, there was way more vegetable than egg in it, and it kind of was a little off-putting. The sweet potato was really, really good. Oh, and there was corn in it too, but I think there was too much pepper and sweet potato in it for me to really even know it. Like, there was barely any egg in it comparatively. I used 4 eggs, but I think I should have used like 6 or something. But it tasted good. What kind of made it good was the fact that I put like Tostitos salsa on top. That kind of made the dish, like, it made it a lot more flavorful. But it was good. I don't know if I'd make it again, but it was fine. It was edible, and it felt decently healthy. It didn't make me feel terrible after eating it. But yeah, it's fun. I like cooking. That's why I kind of have reserved Saturdays, to make sure I can still kind of hone that, because I don't have time to do an extensive amount of dishes any other day. Time or energy. I would have the time, but I wouldn't have the energy to do it. So usually I just make soup or something. But yeah, I suppose I can talk about the actual topics of the day now. So our first topic of discussion is how I feel about Pikmin 1 and 2 on the Switch. In reality, I guess I should have labeled it Pikmin 1 for the Switch because I haven't gotten the chance to play the Pikmin 2 remake yet. But Pikmin 1, it's weird because it feels a lot smoother and easier to play, especially once I get used to the fact that the C-Stick, you now have to hold L to use. It's just, that's one small thing that I have to get used to. But the game feels very smooth and very clean. There's just a couple things that really bother me. I don't know what port it's based on, if it's based on the Wii version or what. Because for one, I way prefer the GameCube version where you can whistle the bomb rocks and have them, the yellow Pikmin drop them. I way prefer that over having to, like, because now it's like when they changed it, it's like now you can't make them get rid of it without putting them away in the onion. Like, they are stuck with that bomb rock and you can't get rid of it unless you throw it at, like, an enemy or something, which makes it a little annoying. But I personally I never really agreed with that change, and I never really understood it, because, like, I think, like, it does make it easier, theoretically, like, it makes it more new player friendly, I think, but I still think once you get the hang of the fact that if you whistle them when you throw them, they will drop them, once you get used to that, I think it's just way better than the alternative. But that's just my opinion. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that or not. It might just be because that's what I'm used to. But it also makes it way easier to, like, one-cycle the black walls as well, because you can just throw a bunch of Pikmin, whistle them, and most of the time they'll all just drop their bombs and get out of the way in time, which is the important part. Which you can't... I don't think you physically can even do that with the way it controls now. It just makes it a little more annoying. I will say, what I've kind of noticed is you don't have to C-Stick throw anymore. I think they changed it. I don't know if this was a change that was made in the Wii version or if it's a change that's new to the Switch version, but I feel like I can just spam throw. Like, it throws as fast as I press the button without having to C-Stick the Pikmin next to me, which is super nice. That's a very clean change that helps out a lot. Like, that's one thing that I really noticed. Another thing that I noticed that was kind of annoying to me is that when Pikmin take something to their onion, you can't whistle them to make them come immediately to you. They sit there staring up as it goes up into the onion for a while, and it takes them a second to actually stop doing that and come to you, which is a really annoying change, on the contrary, that I find annoying, I guess. But it doesn't impact that much. Like, I was trying to do... Well, it'll actually be in episode 6, so you'll have seen it already. I tried to do, like, a speedrun of it. I was only half trying to do a speedrun, I wasn't trying that hard. But then it became actually, like, decently fast. Like, I think I might have actually PB'd on it, had I actually finished it and not choked on the distant spring. But... like, yeah, it was just a couple things that I noticed that offset each other. Like, the speed of throwing the Pikmin was really nice, but then the fact that they stand under the onion for a while before they actually come to you after bringing something there is a little annoying. But again, that only affects, like, a couple of specific spots. Like, when you're reproducing the red Pikmin in the beginning of the game, when you reproduce the yellows on day 2, and when you are reproducing the blues on day 3, it would be, yeah, day 3. It only affects those couple of spots. Any other time, it doesn't really, like, matter, and it's not like it's that big of a, like, major time loss or anything. It's just annoying. Oh, oops. But, another thing I noticed, I don't know if this is correct or not, but from what I could tell, it seemed like you could throw your Pikmin way further than normal. Like, I felt like you could throw them way further than in the GameCube version. Like, not comparable to the Wii version by any means, but it felt like you had a farther range that you could actually throw the Pikmin, which was, again, super nice. Something else I noticed was, and I never really had issues with this prior, like in the main game on the GameCube, other than when I was trying to do the Deathless runs in the summer, of course. I never, like, normally I didn't have that many issues with the crushing glitch, but I haven't had it happen once during my time experimenting around with it. And that includes a couple times that I rushed Bulborbs, and usually when you rush Bulborbs, they tend to fall on top of your Pikmin and crush them, which I haven't experienced yet. So maybe they managed to at least reduce the amount that happens. I don't know. I'd be interested to see. The camera controls are something to get used to just because I'm used to being able to just flip the camera above me by pressing the Z button, and now it's on the right stick, which just feels unnatural to me, but that's just because I'm used to having it all kind of in my trigger fingers, I'll call them. But again, that's just kind of a me thing. It took me a while to figure out how you switch colors, because it's like really weird that they didn't map that to the D-pad to me. I don't understand why it's the R button. It took me a second to like, for a second I thought they didn't have that ability, then I accidentally did it one time when I was trying to change, like, when I was trying to flip the camera on top of me and press the R button on accident, because that's what I was used to, was it being the Z button on the GameCube controller. So I pressed the R button and accidentally switched the Pikmin color, and I was like, huh, that's weird. That button just doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, I guess it's convenient because it's like, you don't have to move your hand into a weird position to access the D-pad to switch it, but again, it's just something I'm not used to. There's something else that I noticed too, but I can't think of what it was now. All in all, they seem like pretty solid ports. Like, they definitely put effort into actually making them, like, more accessible on the Switch. Like, they didn't change that much, but they definitely put, like, some effort into, like, making sure the controls were mapped in a halfway decent way. And obviously in 2, they changed some of the treasures to remove the product placement. So they actually put effort into it, which is super cool. I'm glad I was able to get my hands on the physical copy. I really thought it was going to sell out fast, kind of like the Metroid Prime remaster, but I don't think it was actually that hard to get your hands on. It's just weird where I live, there's like not real. I don't know where people buy video games here if they go across the border to Canada, because that's where Walmart is, but there's not really a store here that you would think of to buy video games. Like, there's the grocery store and there's Dollar General, and neither of those stock video games. So I don't know. But yeah, I've been having fun so far with it. I think I will actually continue to play in my free time and try to maybe get my time down on... I know the leaderboards are separate for the Switch version, but I still think it'd be cool. Like, I definitely think I could get a 9-day run like pretty easily, because I would have had a 9-day run had I not choked in the Distant Spring and lost like 50 Pikmin on that attempt. But I definitely think it's doable for me to get like an hour and a half or sub hour and a half even run of that, which would be cool. I'll just have to research how to do the final boss in that version, because I'm used to being able to whistle, like just throw a bunch of bombs and whistle them and have the massive nuclear explosion. But yeah, I'll have to play Pikmin 2. I'm interested to see how that plays. I'm guessing it's similar. I doubt they changed the controls, other than the sprays being on the D-pad. That might be why they changed it, was because they wanted the sprays in Pikmin 2 to be on the D-pad. They didn't want to confuse people. I don't know. I am glad that Pikmin 1 and 2 are on the Switch. I kind of had a moment the other day where I like laid in bed. I was about to play Donkey Kong Country 3, actually, because my girlfriend and I are playing that right now, and I've been getting some of the secrets in my free times. Like, we'll play through the levels, and then I'll go back through the levels myself and get some of the secrets. Because I don't want to be distracted and having to research that the entire time we're playing, so we can just complete the levels and then I go back and find the secrets. But I went on my Switch to do that the other night, and I was like laying in bed and I was looking at Pikmin, and I was like, ugh, it's actually insane that I can play every Pikmin game on the same system, not only in bed, but portable. Like, it's actually insane that I can just bring Pikmin 2 wherever I want. Like, 10-year-old me would have flipped out at that. Like, I'm still hype about it, it's still crazy cool, but yeah, I just don't have the time for video games that I used to, obviously. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say on that. I have minimal experience with it, but I feel like I have enough experience to talk about it just because I've played the originals enough to notice how, like, the differences pretty quickly. The game overall seems a little more responsive as well than the GameCube version, I kind of noticed. Specifically Pikmin 1. Like, Pikmin 1 sometimes on the GameCube, like, it just felt unintuitive sometimes, like it just wouldn't behave. And it feels like the controls are a lot more responsive now than they were before. So it feels like they did something to smoothen it out a bit. But on to the next topic, Earth, the board game. So for those who don't know, Earth is basically it's an engine builder game where you're kind of building your own sort of ecosystem, and you're basically trying to beef up the amount that you can do when you take each action in the game. There's 4 actions you can take. You can plant, which is how you add cards to your ecosystem. You can compost, which allows you to get soil, which you use, which is the currency that you use to buy the cards that you're planting. You can water, which is how you get these little sprout cubes, which are kind of like energy. They help you use certain actions that are on the cards that you've planted, and they're worth points at the end of the game. And then the last action is growing, which allows you to grow kind of these like tree stalks or tree trunks on your cards, and those are worth points at the end of the game as well, based on how many you've built up. So there's those 4 basic actions, and kind of through planting cards, like each card has an ability that is a certain color, and each color signifies an action that you get to take that you get to use that ability during. Like, say there's a red power on a card. If a card has a red power, that means you get to use that power every time you take the compost action. So then when you take the compost, not only do you get the basic like 5 soil or whatever it is, you also get to take the action that's on that card that has the red power. And as you get more cards, you go through them in sequential order as well to activate all the abilities. I think that's probably my favorite genre of game, because it always feels like very rewarding towards the end. Like at the beginning, it's like, what do I even do? There's so, like, every action feels worthless. And then at the end, you're suddenly chaining everything together, and it works really well. It's the same genre as Wingspan, and the game reminds me of Wingspan quite a bit, but partially just because it's similar theming, like where it's nature type. I've talked about this before, but nature-themed games are definitely probably my favorite, like, theme, like my favorite board game type thematically out of any of them is probably natural theme. I haven't gotten to play Earth multiplayer yet because I don't have anyone up here to play with, but I did get to try the single player out 2 times. The first time I got absolutely bodied by the makeshift AI. I think I got beat by like 30 or 40 points, but then I realized I did it wrong and completely like threw it off balance in the AI's favor. So then I tried another game a couple hours later and was able to almost win. I still haven't beaten the AI before, but I only lost by like 10 points this time instead of like 30. And it was partly because of one particular really unlucky draw on my part basically gave the AI 30 points. And that's like very extreme, where like if that one unlucky thing wouldn't have happened, I would have probably won. It's partly because I'm bad at shuffling, because it was all like 10 point value cards in a row that went straight into her hand. And yeah, I'm just really bad at shuffling, so like the first like 2 or 3 plays of a game that has especially like as many cards as Earth has are usually a little bit rough, because you run into like the same types of cards in a row a lot, because I'm really bad at shuffling cards, especially when there's a large quantity of them. I really like the amount of varied setup there is in the game as well. Like, it just feels like you'll play the game completely different almost every single time, based on not only what you have available to you on your player board, because the way it works is you get a random climate and a random island that both have different attributes that give you like different, well, for one, the island that you pick gives you a different starting hand, like a different amount of starting cards every time, and the climate gives you a different power every time. And then you also have a ecosystem, which is a separate like goal that you can try to meet. Like, it's like if you have, for every 2 of this type of card you have, you get 6 points or something like that are scored at the end of the game. There's also, like, in the center available to everyone, there's like animal cards, and there's 4 animal cards, and you kind of are racing to try to fulfill their requirement, because the first person who fulfills it in their ecosystem gets 15 points, the next person gets 11, and the next person I think gets like 8, and it just drops off as more people get to it. So you want to try to race to be the first one to collect that bonus, because those bonuses are available to everyone. And then there's 2 ecosystem cards that are available for everyone to score off of. So it just makes it very varied. Like, it completely changes how you play the game, and like it makes it really interesting, because you'll run into the same, like, the decks are massive, but you obviously will run into the same cards on different plays, but different cards will have a different level of value based on what is out there for the bonus point, like the points that you're going for the animal cards, or the points that you're going for on your ecosystem cards. And it just it kind of turns the game on its head a bit, because you're completely changing what you're going for. Like, for example, the first game I played, the Arctic Fox was one of the animals, which made it so that I had to go for the winter or like snowy climate cards. I had to look for those ones and pull those ones out, and everything else was pretty much worthless to me, because I needed 8 or more of those types of cards. And then the next one, I had the alligator card as one of them, and that one requires 8 or more rainy climate cards. And yeah, it's just interesting how much difference there is between plays, because of the amount of different setups that you can end up with, because there's a lot of ecosystem cards, and they're front and back too. Like, all of the island, climate, ecosystem, and animal cards are front and back with different effects on each side. So it's like, I think in the directions, they kind of brag a little bit about how many different possible combinations there are, and it's like 20,000 or something like that, like 24,000, which is, again, actually insane, the amount of variance that there is, and that makes the game super replayable. I could see this one coming off my shelf a good amount because it's really fun and it's really simple to explain as well. Kind of like, that's kind of also kind of what I like about engine builders, is they start off simple. You just kind of have to know what cards you need to go for. And as you start building your engine, it gets more complex. But even if it's your first play, you kind of get to learn along with it, because you'll place a card and be like, oh, that's what that does. Now I know what that symbol means. And the thing about Earth is there's not a very high volume of, like, symbols you have to learn. Like, in some of these games, it's like there's a crazy amount of, like, symbols where it, like, needs an entire, like, glossary in the back of the, I would call it the manual, the back of the instructions to figure out what each symbol means. But you catch on Earth relatively quickly. Like, I probably figured out what I was doing and what value every action had about halfway through my first play. And then I kind of really caught on to what I needed to be doing. It'll be interesting to see how the interaction between players works. What I do really like is that when you take an action, even in multiplayer, everyone else gets a benefit from the action you take, so you have to kind of weigh whether it's worth it or not to take. Like, it's like, how many points will my opponents get from this, and does it outweigh the amount of points that I will get from taking this action? Like, that was something that I had to go through my head a few times when I was playing against the AI player, was, like, I know I'm gonna, like, there are 3 actions that would be worthwhile for me to take, but I need to do the math to see which one gives me the best amount of points over the amount that she gets out of it. Like I have to subtract the amount of points that she gets from the amount that I would get, find that difference for each of those actions, and whichever one is the highest is the one that is going to be most worthwhile for me to take. Obviously, you aren't going to be able to sit there and do that kind of math when you have, like, 3 other people that you're playing against, but it is super nice when games like that have stuff that everyone else can do on your turn as well, because games can get really bogged down when turns take forever and you're the last person to go and it takes forever. That was one of my complaints about Brass of Birmingham, was that it might have been because we were all on our first play, but there were a few times where I'd go first and I would spend the most money, and in that game, when you spend the most money, you go last the next turn. So I went first and then went last the next turn, so it literally felt like 30 minutes probably would have passed before I got to go again. Like, and it's like, in that game, there's no interaction during your turn. Like, sometimes people will use your, like, resources and that you put on the map. Like, they'll use your ironworks and you'll get points because of that, but it's not like you're physically doing anything or having any influence in anything that's happening. It's still very much their turn. Whereas in Earth, it's like, while you get to plant a card, everyone else gets to do something at the same time as well, which makes it feel much more cohesive, which is very nice. I really like that amount of player interaction. And it's just super cool the amount of variance they have with, like, there's even, like, a team mode where you can go 2v2 on it. Like, they thought that out and have a full 2v2 game mode, which is super fun. And there is a well, there's the solo version. There's the solo as well, which has become kind of a staple in any game. Like, pretty much any of the bigger games now have a solo version, but it's still nice. Like, it's not something to be taken for granted. I obviously need a couple more plays to get acclimated to the way everything works, and to have the decks actually kind of shuffle themselves almost, so that I don't draw 3 10-point cards in a row and give them to the AI player. But yeah, it's a super fun game and it's one of those games that's simplistic enough on the surface that it's easy to learn, but once you learn it, there's so much strategy that goes into like actually winning and playing well. And that's what I really like about it. Is it feels like the learning curve to it is low, but like the ceiling that you have is very high. But with that, I think that's about all that I have to say about that now. I might have to try to get on some games of it on Board Game Arena and play with people and see how I am able to fare against, not computer players, but like actual real people. But that'll probably be a bit down the road since I don't have much time, and it's a Sunday. Sunday is usually my relaxing day where I can kind of do whatever I want, and then it's back to the grind for the entire week. But on to my next topic, the bit of a disappointment, the Minnesota Vikings. I almost said Minnesota Vikings. So, the Vikings season has kind of been an absolute reverse of last year. It's like all of the good karma we had last year just kind of got totally flipped on its head. Like, we've had incredibly, like, bad luck. Like, especially this Chargers game that just happened today, where a Caleb Evans would have had an interception. It went through his hands, but not only was it not an interception, it bounced off his helmet into the receiver's hands for a touchdown. Like, you can't get much more unlucky than that. Like, it could have at least been an incompletion, or at most an interception. But no, it bounces off his helmet and lands in the receiver's hands for a touchdown. Like, a massive turnaround in that game. And then just the last drive the Vikings had, there was one play where Jefferson went down injured, and because the Vikings didn't have any timeouts, they had to take a 5-yard penalty. And then the very next play, Hawkinson goes down, and thus they have to take 5 more yards for a penalty. And I don't know. I get why they do that, but it just seems really dumb because it feels like it encourages. Like, I'm no football guru. I didn't even play football, like, ever. I ran cross country. I just watch it. But it seems dumb to, like, punish a team because a player got hurt on a play. Like, I get why that's the case, because it's like you don't have any timeouts and it's under the 2-minute warning. You take the 5-yard penalty because we gotta keep the game moving. But I don't know. It just feels really dumb to me. Like, it encourages players to, like, try to limp themselves off the field or, like, get off the field as soon as possible. Or even, like, for the opposing team to be even more brutal so that they cause players to go down injured so that they have to blow the 5 yards or blow a timeout if they still have timeouts. Like, it just seems like a really dumb rule to me. But I guess, like, it makes sense because if it wasn't a rule, I guess you would have players who faked injured who would go down to stop the clock when there's less than 2 minutes left. So I get why it has to be a thing. Like, I don't know. I guess I can't think of anything better, like, now that I'm talking through it, but it still feels like really annoying that the injured player their team gets punished because they got hurt on a play where they got banged up from the opposing team. I don't know. But yeah, it's just been kind of a travesty. Like, the first game against the Buccaneers, it was like, that was kind of the beginning of where we saw our problems, because that was where Like, there was a massive turnover differential there. And then same with the Eagles game. There was just, well, again, like, the same amount of stuff. Like, again, with, like, dumb rules, I think the rule where if you fumble out of your end zone on a play like Jefferson had, you lose, your team loses the ball and it's a touchback, I think is garbage. Like, obviously I'm saying that because it's my team partly, but like, I think that rule is kind of garbage. Like, it's been brought up that just like put it at the 1 or put it at like the 2 or something, but it is just, it's kind of dumb because it's like you never know where the ball is going to go. It just sometimes goes the way that it wants to, in which case on Jefferson's play it could have very well gone out of bounds, but it just bounced not in his favor and went in the end zone, barely crossing the plane, and caused the Eagles to get the ball, which just feels like, it feels dumb because it's like the defense did not earn that ball. It was just because Jefferson lunged for the end zone and fell slightly short and the ball came out. I don't know. Just like stuff like that. It's been the definition for the Vikings so far. I'm hoping they bounce back against the Panthers, but it's like, it's a long road ahead of them because they still have to play the Chiefs and the 49ers and the Bengals, which the Bengals have been struggling, but it seems like the past couple of years they struggle in the beginning of the season, then get hot towards like the midpoint. So I still would say that's going to be a tough game. But yeah, hopefully they get it turned around. I would hate to be like, we're just losing one-score games now instead of winning them. Like, it's completely flipped on its head from last year. Like, my dad and I were talking, really, from watching, the Vikings are not that much of a worse team than they were last year. Like, they're comparable, or even, like, they seem like they're playing a little bit better. It's just, like, stupid stuff that gets in the way of them winning. Like, where if one small thing were changed, we would win the game. Which I guess is the same thing last year, but the opposite, where if one small thing went against us, we would have lost. But I don't know, it's just weird because stats-wise, it looks very much like we should be winning the games that we play, but we just aren't because of stupid turnovers and something else. There was something else on my mind. And just like bad luck stuff, like the again, a Caleb Evans thing is the one thing that's specifically on my mind because that happened today. The Jefferson fumble, stuff like that. That it just feels, I don't know. It feels like luck is definitely not on our side this year. But one thing that I absolutely despise is just how quickly our fan base specifically turns on the team. Like, it's like we have a lot of good going for us, but the entire fan base online is just blowing up, like saying blow everything up, fire the coach, fire the GM. Like, yeah, you want to fire the GM that got us Darisaw. There were a couple others. I can't think of them right now. Jordan Hicks has been a really big player for us this year. He decided to keep him around. Addison. Ty Chandler looks really good as well. And a Caleb Evans, for that matter, looks really good. There were a few like bad plays during the Chargers that he got a bit burnt on, but like, it's not like he's been terrible like everyone's acting like. And there are people already saying we should tank and trade Cousins to the Jets, but I don't know. It just feels like the team is close. Like, it just needs to kind of weave together a bit. Like, it's like they have all the pieces. It just needs to be a bit more cohesive than it is right now. And people, like, ridiculously bashing Madison. I will admit that I got in a bit of a keyboard war with someone on Instagram who was shit-talking Madison. He was like, oh, we definitely need a different running back. Madison belongs in the XFL. And I was like, yeah, the same running back who had 100 yards rushing today. Like, give me a freaking break. And then he went on to be like, you mean 2 fumbles and no touchdowns? And he didn't even fumble today. So it's like, these guys are just putting, like, they're delusional. They're putting their own negative thoughts in their own minds. Like, it's like stuff that's not even happening. But, and the fact that it's like they constantly are running him up the middle when we have a terrible interior offensive line. And the couple times that they run him to the outside, it's worked. And granted, he's doing his best. Like, you see plays where he immediately gets hit and he just plows over them and gets like 4 or 5 yards when it looks like he should just be stopped with 0. But he just kind of runs over people sometimes, which, like, again, he's obviously going hard, and I feel like he's doing his best with what he's been given. Hopefully Risner helps a bit. Again, it'll be interesting because at the point that you see all this it'll be 7 weeks later, so you'll get to see a bit more of how the rest of the season unfolds. But again, at least we're not the Broncos who got beat by, like, who had 70 points dropped on them by the Dolphins. That was ridiculous. Or the Bears. The Bears got demolished by the Chiefs. And it's like, both those teams, their fans kind of had higher expectations. Like, they were, like, the Bears traded away the #1 overall pick to Carolina because they believed that they didn't need it. Like, they thought that they just kind of needed to get Justin Fields that receiver help, and it's obvious he can't throw worth a... Well, he can throw, he just can't... he doesn't go through his progression fast enough, and he gives up on reads too fast. He is not very good when it comes to the passing game. And again, it's not necessarily because he doesn't have an arm, it's because, like, you see a bunch of plays where he has, like, a receiver running free for the end zone, and he's just staring down the completely wrong guy. Or he'll, like, take off and start running because he just gets closed off in that mindset that he has to. Yeah, it could definitely be worse for the Vikings. It could be better, but it could be worse. Like, the Lions are now 2 points ahead of us, and it's pretty much guaranteed, in my opinion, that the Lions are going to beat us for the division. Like, I don't see a world where they don't. Because they're definitely better than us, I think. And, like, I don't think we're catching those 2 games anywhere. It's possible we get the wild card because the NFC, like, the other teams that are kind of competing for the wild card is one between the Eagles and the Cowboys, one between the Saints and the Falcons, which is weird to say, and it's kind of between the Rams and the 49ers in that division. I haven't seen much from the Seahawks. Maybe the Seahawks, too, can be thrown into that conversation. But it's kind of... Yeah, like, the Vikings, no one would even consider them in the conversation because they're 0-3 right now. But, like, if we're talking, like, from my standpoint, like, hoping that the Vikings get in the wild card game, which it's a little early to tell, it's like their competition right now seems to be either the Eagles or the Cowboys, whichever one pulls ahead. Either the Saints or the Falcons, again, whichever one pulls ahead. Actually, I think the Saints are ahead right now. I could be wrong on that, though. And then the 2 teams from the NFC West division, between the, I think it's the Rams and the Seahawks. So we're kind of competing with those 4 teams, so it's kind of that 5-team sort of bubble for the wild card spot. And I don't think we play the Falcons and the Saints. We don't play anyone else out of that. No, we do play the Cowboys. Actually, the Cowboys lost today, didn't they? To the Cardinals, nonetheless. That game wasn't over when I last checked, but I'm pretty sure they were down by like 2 scores with like 2 minutes left or something. I have to make sure that they actually lost that one. I wasn't positive. I'm going based on like fantasy, so I have to find someone who has a Cowboys or Cardinals player, which is going to be probably pretty few people. I could just look it up, that would probably be faster, but I'm already in this deep. Okay, yeah, the Cowboys did lose, so they're behind the Eagles now, but so the Cowboys are beatable. They looked like unstoppable the first 2 weeks, and then they got trounced by a team that everyone thought was tanking. But yeah, I guess what kind of bothers me the most about the Vikings losing is just the toxicity among our fans. Like, one of the main, like, Viking, or, like, just Minnesota sports in general, like, social media pages was, like, posting extremely negative tweets when the game wasn't even, like, half over yet. Like, saying the crowd should be booing by now. This is a travesty. And it's like, the game isn't even half over, dude. Just shut the frick up and actually cheer for your team instead of acting like it's world ending or something. I don't know. Like, get a bit of a life. I don't know. But I think that's pretty much the end of that conversation. But we'll see where it goes. They just really need to get it together. I think once they get locked in, it'll be pretty safe. But it's weird that the offense has become the main problem. Like, the offense stuttering out and not being able to do anything rather than the defense. The defense hasn't been great either. They play a really mean first half, and then they get gassed by the second half, and they just... that's when it all goes to crap. But, yeah, anyways, the final topic of today, which was, I have to pull it up again. My favorite experiences with local multiplayer, since I feel like the transition has kind of been fully made to online. I feel like people don't talk about local nearly as much as they used to. So, one of the big ones, obviously, is Mario Party. I will talk a bit about, like, classic stuff as well, like from like before the online gaming era, and Mario Party kind of fits that bill. But same with like even newer Mario Party has way more emphasis on the local than the online, even though you can play Superstars online. I do miss a good round of classic Mario Party just because of how unbalanced the game, like, it was just like unbalanced for the sake of being unbalanced, and that's the way it was. Like, now it just feels like mind-numbingly easy. Like, the Superstars was a step in the right direction, but they even felt the need to dumb down those boards a bit by adding the stupid, like, lucky spaces. Like, I didn't really understand that. But I do like a good round of classic Mario Party, and I'm glad that it's on the Switch. Even though I said I wouldn't talk about online, it's super cool that I can play Mario Party 2 online with people who have the expansion pass. And on top of that, actually, I don't know what I was going to say on top of that, too. Well, like, having it on my Switch is super nice. Like, rather than having to play it on the N64, I have it on my Switch. So, like, when friends come over, I just have my Switch with classic Mario Party on it. I don't have to worry about pulling out the N64 to play some Mario Party 2. Well, and I don't even have Mario Party 2, so I don't know why I would say that. But for some more modern experiences with local multiplayer, Overcooked is so extremely fun. It's infuriating if you play it with the wrong people. There's kind of two groups of people that you have to play Overcooked with. Either people who are really good at it, or people who are really funny when they play it. Like, it's either you will get infuriated, or if someone's at least messing up and they're funny about it, then it's still a fun experience. Like, playing it with my parents and my brother. My parents are not the best at it, but it's like my brother and I are able to carry enough that we can win. And my dad is still serviceable, but my mom doesn't play video games, so she kind of sticks on the dishes because that's easy to focus on. And it's still helpful too. But it's kind of funny because she'll be like, all right, so you made me finish the dishes in real life so that now I can do the dishes in the video game. What is it with you people? But like, my brother gets an absolute kick out of it when we play it because my dad will be like cussing out the game because he'll like fall off the cliff or something like that. Or my brother will go on one of the ice levels. Someone just started pounding on the wall. Or my brother will go on one of the ice levels and like start dashing around, and when he like runs into someone, they'll go flying off the cliff. And he gets a kick out of it. We banned that behavior because we kept losing because of it, but then he would like start going on like by himself and just do it like he would play like a 4-player game by himself and just go around for like 3 minutes pushing them off the cliff. Sorry if I start talking quieter. I don't know if they were banging on the wall because they were pissed because I was being loud, or if that was just a coincidence, or they were hammering something in or something like that. I don't know what the deal was. But it's not like it's late. It's not even 9 o'clock. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if they do it again. But, shoot. Now I'm losing my train of thought. But yeah, Overcooked is super fun. I haven't had as much fun with Moving Out. It's a fun game, but it just doesn't really capture Overcooked. Like, the kitchen element specifically works really well. I hope they make an Overcooked 3, because both of the first couple are really innovative and fun, and I do believe that the team behind them would be able to make another one. I don't think they have plans to, though. I know they made Moving Out 2, or maybe that's still a work in progress. I don't know if it came out yet or not, but like, Moving Out is fun, but it's definitely a tier below Overcooked. Another good like group of games that's like fun for like a party sense is Jackbox. Obviously, this is one that's kind of weird because it kind of bridges the gap between like local and online, because you can play it online. It's just the people, like, if you share screen or whatever in Discord, like, you can play it online, but the people who are watching will get like a bit of delay with it, I think. But it does work. But my only experiences with it have been local anyways. And again, like, pretty much every pack has at least one game that you will get a kick out of. I think I only have 2 packs on my Switch. I don't remember which ones I have. I think I've only played one of them like once. I have to find them. I have 7 and 3. 3 I feel like is kind of the objective best, because that one almost, like, Guespionage is a little weaker, but all of the other ones are like top tier Jackbox games. I don't think I've even gotten to play 7. I might have played Quiplash 3 once. Other than that, I don't think I've played it like at all. But yeah, I don't know. It's, again, because the games are like, the people behind them obviously know what they're doing at this point. They know how to create a game that works well for that format. And that's what's so nice about Jackbox, is like, there's games kind of for everyone. Like, there's trivia games, and then there's games where you have to be funny, and then there's, again, like, some more like serious games. There's the rapping game. There's just a huge variety of like games in between the party packs that you can, like, pretty much everyone can find something that they'll enjoy within it, which I really like about the Jackbox series. Yeah, another one that I haven't really heard talked about a whole lot that's actually really fun is a game called Death Squared. I'm actually on my Switch right now, so I'm looking at it. Death Squared is a game that I downloaded because I had a friend that I would go visit sometimes, and we didn't play games online that often, but I liked to buy like, well, and the good thing about local was that only one of us had to buy it. We didn't both have to commit to buying it, so I would spend a bunch of money on just co-op games that I could, or not even co-op, just local multiplayer games that I could find that were on sale. And I bought Death Squared, and honestly, it's super fun because they're bite-sized puzzles, but they take actually a good amount of brain power to figure out, and like it's addicting. It's got like mobile game energy, but in a good way, like where it's like once you finish another one puzzle, it's like, all right, well, just one more, we can do one more. And it's super fun in that regard. Again, I'm looking at my Switch to see if I can find any others. The Stardew Valley local multiplayer experience is super fun as well. Like, I know it's known for, like, the online experience as well, so it's got both. But local split screen is super fun on that as well. Now that I'm being put on the spot, I need to find some other local multiplayer games. Like, my brain is just exploded right now. I can't think of any. Snipper Clips is another one that's super fun. Snipper Clips and Ultimate Chicken Horse. I know they're not like games that are at all similar, but they're on my screen right now. Snipper Clips is a super fun, like, again, puzzly game that, like, all the puzzles are really unique in it, and it's actually really fun to play with someone else. And Ultimate Chicken Horse is, again, like a very replayable game because it's a very different experience every time you play it. And my younger brother absolutely loves it. Man, now my brain is like completely exploding because I had others on my mind as well. I really like playing the like 2D platformer multiplayer, like even like classic ones where you more had to take turns, like Donkey Kong Country. You've been seeing the gameplay of my girlfriend and I playing that. It's been online that we've been playing it, but that's only because the Super Nintendo allows that. It used to be you had to do it in local, but like Donkey Kong Country is super fun to play multiplayer because it's like very easily one person can carry, and it makes it fun to play like with someone who isn't necessarily as much of a gamer as me, because it's like she can still have fun playing it because she doesn't have to be frustrated when she loses, because I'll be able to just pick up where she left off usually. Although it does make it so that I have to be a lot more consistent when I'm playing with someone who is dying a little bit more frequently than I would, rather than like when I play on my own, when I'm doing the when I'm going back, like backtracking to complete bonuses and stuff, I complete the levels much easier just because it's consistently me playing. And it's even just like getting cooled down a little bit. Like sometimes she'll get to play for quite a while, and then by the time I come back and have to be like tapped in, I'm like not warmed up into the physics anymore, like, if that makes sense. Like, it's like I get tapped in and I have to take a second to get accustomed to everything again. But yeah, that's a super fun one. The newer ones where you all play at the same time, it isn't as fun because the screen gets crowded. It's fun in its own right because the screen gets so crowded, but at the same time, it's like, it's a little annoying when you're trying to play like Mario and you're constantly bouncing on each other's head because the levels were not designed with multiple players in mind necessarily. I will say Mario Maker's co-op was super fun because you could make levels specifically designed for it and just not upload them and then play them with someone. Like, that aspect of being able to create your own Mario levels that were designed to be played with two people is super fun. And then you have some of the obvious like local multiplayer games like Mario Kart, which will never get old, and Smash Bros. Ultimate, or just Smash Bros. In general. I'll say Pikmin, the Pikmin 2, 3, and 4 multiplayers all kind of varied experiences. 2 is still fun in its own right, and I have a lot of really good memories of playing it with my sister. Like, my sister and I used to play challenge mode. She'd pick one, and I'd pick a level, and she would always pick the bread bug level, so I have that challenge mode level, like, memorized because we played it together so much. But like that one, the co-op is super fun. In Pikmin 3, I think it's the best multiplayer experience of the entire series because the mission mode levels are super well designed, like every single one of them. And Bingo Battle is super addicting. Like, Bingo Battle is probably the most fun, like, in my opinion, Bingo Battle is the most fun local co-op, or like local versus that there is. Like, it's just extreme.